Welcome to the place. You have typed in atheist, sort by new, you get this guy. He's not actually an atheist, but he has conversations with atheists. He refuses to debate because it's impossible to prove each other wrong. It ultimately is. Otherwise, there would not be theist and atheist. We would all have the same version of reality if we could prove the other wrong. And so that's boring, that's not interested. Let's do something that's actually interested, and let's have conversations to find out what we can actually agree on. And I think this comment might help us do that. I made a video called As an Atheist, Do You Believe I Am a Calvinist? And here's what Mad City Jack had to say. Quote, "Hi Nick, I would love to sit down with you and go over the Bible on an intellectual rather than emotional level. I would love to voice my view on a few things, but I'd like for us to be on the same page. Religion and logic lie at opposite hemispheres of the brain. I would love if we could study the Bible the way we read any textbook or book of reference without bias or emotion. I'm sure you have a lot to say about the Bible through your heart or emotional mind. I would love to hear the other half. The emotional brain is the most biased place on earth. It puts feelings before facts always. Reading a reference with the heart is a very bad study habit. Can we put our hearts away and really take a thoughtful, inquisitive look inside the Bible? I think we could learn from each other." End quote. So I thank you for that invitation. My answer is ultimately no. My answer is thank you, but no, because ultimately I am not open-minded to becoming an atheist or anything like that. I have made my belief, and I've said multiple times, I guess ultimately the theme of these atheist videos has become that for me as a Christian, my perception is that our difference is less about whether we believe in God or not. It's more about this. Atheists, individual atheists have told me that they don't have a choice to believe. They can't choose to believe in God because they don't. And I say that Christians do have a choice. I say whether you believe that you have a choice to believe ultimately determines whether you can become a Christian or not. If you can't choose to believe, then by default, you're an atheist by definition because you do not have the ability to believe. But then the atheist might say, well, that's emotion. So let's explore that though, because again, the point is, what can we agree on? So what I'm wondering now is, it is fair to say that Christians do rely on emotions based on what they believe in Christianity. But we have to look at it from the other side. Do atheists do the same thing? One of the reoccurring things that I bring up is that ultimately, by default, everyone is somewhat, somehow, a little bit agnostic. Because if we're being real, we're admitting that we can't know for sure. Like, I believe in Jesus. I believe he died for my sins. I believe in everything that the Bible says. But could I be wrong? I could be wrong. I don't believe I'm wrong, but I could be wrong. And I think any atheist and any agnostic, if they're being realistic, they could be wrong. And I think that's important. I think that really should be its own video. But ultimately, I want to start out here. Is ultimately, are we clouding our emotions? Even as an atheist, is it possible that you're clouding your emotions and that your own emotions, your own sense of identity, could keep you from being able to choose to believe? Because that's the main thing that I feel that defines an atheist. It's not whether you believe in God. It's whether you can see yourself choosing to believe or not. A Christian can easily choose to believe. It's still a choice. For a Christian, I am choosing to believe. It's not that the scientific evidence necessarily is so evident. Now granted, for me it's obvious that God created all this, that this is not a coincidence, that we're not just part of the matrix. But ultimately, it's not, I can't prove that to you. If I could prove that to you, then I wouldn't have to choose to believe. It's almost like this. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, that's not believing. You're not believing if you see it, because believing requires you to not be able to know for something for sure, but you make a decision to live your life accordingly, treating that as if it were ultimately knowledge. So you can't say, well, I'll see it when I believe it. See, in that case, most people on planet Earth are not going to, ultimately it's like we're defining what belief is. I'll see it when I believe it. That's not believing at that point. You stop believing the moment that you see it, because now you know it. For a Christian, they have the mental capacity with or without our emotion, to be able to say, I believe this, even though I don't see it. The Christian says, I don't see it, but I do believe it. And maybe the agnostic or atheist would say, I'll believe it when I see it. No, you won't. That's not belief. A Christian has the ability to choose to believe. So what I'm wondering, based on this comment, let's use that logic here. Ultimately, could it be possible for an atheist that their emotions prevent them from being able to choose to believe? For me, that's the interesting question. So can we sit down and talk? No, because I'm closed-minded to being an atheist. I am closed-minded. And it's not interesting to me if we're trying to convert each other. But it is interesting to imagine how emotions cloud either of our perspectives. But my question for you, is it possible that as an atheist, your emotions cloud your perspective to keep you from being able to choose to believe, knowing that there's no such thing as, I'll believe it when I see it? That's not belief. That's acceptance of what you're seeing in front of you. A Christian has to make a choice to believe in what they cannot see. Our emotions getting in your way of choosing to believe, because that's the ultimate thing that differentiates Christians from atheists. An atheist cannot choose to believe. A Christian can. Your comments belong right here.